Welcome back to the dailies. To kick off the Sunday edition, let's bring the front pages of the dailies this morning from Nigeria and Africa. Sunday Sun. Tension in Kano as Beirut Sanusi fights for Emirate throne. Tinubu Atiku Diri celebrates Clark at 97. 1 year in office, pains anguish. On Daily Trust, drama, intrigues as Sanusi Bayero hold court in two palaces. Criticism trail, reintroduction of old national anthem. Kano recurring Game of Thrones. Daily News on Sunday. Chamisa has got to be part of Zim talks. Screen printing embroidery. On Sunday, 1 year in office, pains anguish. Tinubu Atiku Diri celebrates Clark at 97. The Guardian Post Sunday. Dominican President rolls red carpet for Apostle John Chi. Guest stabs another to death over food. Angry wife beats up stubborn husband-in-laws. Tension in Kano over Emirates tussle. 1 year in office, how Tinubu failed Nigerians and analysts. Labour Party crisis takes dramatic turn and bills suspended. Sunday Punch, 1 year anniversary. Tinubu ready to fire underperforming ministers, says presidency. How taking care of special needs children strengthens family. Unity after husband's disappearance. Economy stopped me from having 12 children, father of triplets. The Nation. Emirates too. Tension as Sanusi Bayero divide Kano. Tinubu to inaugurate Lagos Calabar Highway. Home delivery of passports begins in June, Minister. The Matrix. Kano Emirship tussle, clash of titans. Police implement court rulings. Sanusi moves to Emir's private residence. Tinubu resisted pressure to interfere with my reinstatement. Sanusi. 1 year anniversary. Tinubu ready to fire. Underperforming minister says presidency. Rising interest rates will compound unemployment, economists orders. Kano Emirates, tension as Sanusi Bayero lay claim to MIC. The Matrix. That's it for the dailies. Coming up this hour is our pre-Children's Day special, and the discussion will focus on investing in the future of the Nigerian child. Stay tuned.
Wow, wasn't that interesting? I need to start putting together my CV for another place because these kids are going to take my job.
Oh, yes, they do. And they deserve a round of applause from us.
Yes, they do.
We have been cheering them on behind closed doors or just behind the scenes. But again, let's take another look at some of the dailies. But if you're just tuning in, our host for today have been Akorede Balogun as well as Enriola Olunola, and they both have just been giving us what's to come in the next 15 years.
Hello, ladies.
They've warned us they're taking our jobs. Hello, ladies. How are you feeling?
Are you good?
Good.
Oh, yeah, you guys were happy just a moment ago.
What's happening now?
Don't you want to take our jobs again?
We do.
You do? Do you want to tell us what you guys want to be when you grow up? Let's start with Amul Korede. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Seamstress.
You want to be a seamstress? Well, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
That's good. Iriola, what about you?
I love fashion as well.
What about you, Iriola?
I want to be an actress.
An actress. Okay. Can I put you to the test? Can I ask you to act like Snow White, for instance? What would you do if you were Snow White?
Not Snow White. Not Snow White. She doesn't have any idea who Snow White is.
Of course she
does. She's like, all right, Ariola, do something. So if you were to get out of a class and you have a stomach ache, pretend that I'm your teacher and then act like you have a stomach ache.
Well,
Ariola, come on now. Act for me.
Excuse me, teacher. I have a stomach ache.
I realize.
Thank you very much for being on our Children's Day edition. And don't go any place, ladies, the little ladies. We'll be coming back to you. But thank you very much for bringing us the papers and, of course, our prologue for the show. But very interesting topics that they talked about.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Remember yesterday what I told you about Sanusi? It's happening.
Oh, what is happening? What is happening?
I mean, remember that we had Adebayo appear at the turbaning ceremony, or on the day of the turbaning ceremony.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Apparently, they were refused access into the palace yet. And if you heard the headlines by the ladies that gave us the headlines, they had to do the ceremonies in 2 different palaces. This is exactly my point from yesterday, where traditional, I won't call them issues, but traditional processes get interfered with.
First status should not be interfered when it comes to
politics starts to enter.
I can imagine as well.
I think this is going to go on for a while. I see this continuing to trend until even bigger than Fubara versus Wike or Cross River State debacle, whatever is happening there. This is the instance I was asking people to look out for in the coming week. Let's see exactly what happens, whether this continues, whether the arrest warrant for Bayero would actually be held out. We don't know. But we'll continue to bring you guys the details of how it happens. And of course, want to remind you that during the course of today's show...
Yes, indeed. We're patching with our correspondents. They are scattered around the city, the metropolis, Lagos, as we hear that the president, as the presidency, President Bola Tinubu, will be back in the commercial capital of Nigeria, and that's Lagos State. So we're definitely to bring that update for you. We do know that the presidency and the federal government have said that there will be very low-key celebrations to mark his first-year anniversary in office, but we'll continue to bring updates on that with our correspondent throughout the course of today's program. So welcome to our pre-Children's Day celebration.
Exactly. Let's say our own welcome before we're ousted. Welcome. Stay tuned. We've got plenty coming your way. Big stories, reports, and more. We'll be back.
Stay with us. Today on Weekend Warrior, we commemorate Children's Day, a day dedicated to celebrating and recognizing the rights and well-being of children in Nigeria. Now, this day holds particular significance as we reflect on the challenges and triumphs of the Nigerian child. Now, despite progress in various areas, many Nigerian children still face significant hardships that impact their development and future prospects. Now, on Weekend Warrior, we focus on one such child whose story has touched the hearts of many. It's none other than Leah Sharibu. Her plight symbolizes the broader struggles faced by countless children across Nigeria.
Indeed, Leah Sharibu, a name that resonates with courage and resilience. On February 19, 2018, Leah was one of the 110 schoolgirls abducted by Boko Haram from their school in Dapchi, Yobe State. Now, while most of her classmates were released, a month later, Leah was not. Her refusal to renounce her religion was actually part of the instance that made the news. Her Christian faith, and she refused to convert to Islam. That kept her in captivity. Leah's story is not just about her bravery, but also highlights the severe challenges Nigerian children face, particularly in conflict zones. Leah's abduction is part of a larger narrative of insecurity and violence that has plagued Nigeria for years. Boko Haram's insurgency in the northeast has led to the displacement of millions and abduction of thousands. Children, especially girls, are often the most vulnerable.
Now, in Nigeria, children represent more than 40% of the population. However, many of these children grow in environments that hinder their potential. And according to the UNICEF, over 10.5 million children are out of school, the highest number in the world. Poverty, cultural practices, and insecurity are significant barriers to education. Additionally, access to healthcare remains limited, with high rates of infant and child mortality. There's also malnutrition, which affects 1 in 3 children under 5, impacting their physical and cognitive development. Child labor is another pressing issue. Millions of children work in hazardous conditions to support their families, depriving them of the opportunity to learn and even play. In conflict-affected regions like in Northeast and North Central, children are often faced with, they are often victims of violence, displacement, and exploitation. Let's not forget about the COVID-19 pandemic, which has also further exacerbated these challenges, interrupting education and increasing vulnerabilities.
So Leah's story has brought international attention to the plight of Nigerian children. Her courage in the face of terror is a stark reminder of the resilience and the strength of the Nigerian child. Leah's situation also underscores the importance of education and the need for safe learning environments. Despite her captivity, Leah's spirit has inspired many, and efforts to secure her release continue. Various organizations and the government are working to improve the situation for Nigerian children. UNICEF is involved in multiple initiatives, including providing educational resources, supporting healthcare services, and protecting children from violence and exploitation. They also work with communities to raise awareness about the importance of education and child's rights.
Yes, indeed. Now, the government has launched several programs aimed at increasing school enrollment, and retention, particularly for girls. Efforts are also underway to improve healthcare services in rural areas and conflict zones. Collaboration with international organizations also ensures comprehensive support for children in need. Children are our future. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that they grow in environments where they can thrive. And children like Leah Sharibu's story is a powerful reminder of the resilience and strength of the Nigerian child, but it also highlights the need for action. So as we commemorate Children's Day, let us all pledge to do our part in supporting Nigerian children, whether through advocacy, volunteering, or simply just raising awareness. Every action counts.
Indeed, every single action counts. I want to say thank you for joining us on this special edition of Weekend Warrior, where Leah Sharibu is our warrior for this weekend. Let's remember the words of Nelson Mandela here. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. So happy Children's Day celebrations to all Nigerians and all the children across Nigeria and the world, of course. Congratulations. We celebrate you guys today, and we're investing in you because that indeed is our future. And that's why we chose to start today's show with the beautiful kids we had on from before.
Absolutely. Masino, were you trying to mimic the one and only Mandiba?
Madiba, no, I can't. You can't never get Madiba.
You can never get it.
In this nation, we hope that children grow to be potentials of the country. How's that?
No, it's not. But hey, thank you so much for our Weekend Warrior, of course, of our children. And like we said, their future matters to us. Right after this, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back on the other side, we start off with our Children's Day special. And this time, it's talking about investing in the future of our children. And what better way to invest than in education? Stay with us.
Stay tuned. So good morning and welcome to Creative Corner for Breakfast Extra. Mazino Appeal here, and of course we have the delectable, the beautiful, the ageless Zizi Kado in with us.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you very much for welcoming us into your space. We're so happy to be here. We're in Ikwe currently, and this is the famous Zizi Kado. Zizi Kado Couture?
No, I don't have the couture in it. It's just a Zicardo, just there.
Okay. What's the difference? Couture, there's this hood couture, there's this.
The haute couture is when you're talking about pieces that are really high end, and then the kind of like maybe a limited editions or bespoke or what, but they're quite high end, expensive fabric. You know, there's so much work put into it. Some of them take up to 6 weeks, 3 months, you know, stuff like that. And so when people add couture sometimes to their name, I wonder why they do that when they're just doing ready to wear.
It's a Nigerian thing.
Yeah, so they're doing a tailoring service and they put couture to their thing, you know. But couture has to do with, you know, high-end tailoring. Any which way you look at it, it's something that you've put in so much work into.
So Zizi Kado is classified
Zizi Kado
as
is just a label.
Just a label.
You know, when I started it, I wanted it to be just a brand, and so Zizi Kado, being my name, is just a brand as it is. So within the brand, of course, we have fusions. We have we have the high-end ones. We have the ready-to-wear. We have the bespoke line and all of that. Yeah.
So let's talk about the origins of Zizi Kado. You've been around for such a long time.
Yeah, everybody makes it seem like I'm a dinosaur.
No, but well, that makes it better because being around for so long, you've seen different eras, and then you can put all of that into your art. So let's talk about the very beginning. I remember reading someplace that you started fashion generally from when you were 17 in the, I won't say streets of Apapa because that makes it a bit gritty. You started in the do I want to say the high-class streets of Apapa at 17? Tell us about that.
Well, Apapa was what it was. Apapa for me is like my village. It's like my home because that's where I grew up. That's where a lot of my siblings were born. And that's where the family home is still, and it still is. You know, so it's a place that's resonates so much to me because you know if anybody grew up in Apapa, you know that as an Apapa kid you're so in touch with your surroundings. There's no gutter that leads to anywhere that you don't know.
Exactly.
You don't discover, you know, because there's all those alleyways, you know, leading to various streets and that. Naturally, when I wanted to start working, it was within Apapa itself. And if you can remember back then, we're talking the 80s and 90s, Apapa was so self-reliant.
Yeah.
It had everything that you wanted.
It was an ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. You know, you could be in there for 6 months and you don't have any need to leave it. Because people were literally coming in for shopping, for whatever it is that you needed inside of Apapa. So when I got my first job, it was as a salesperson in a boutique owned by a Polish lady. And so I think that would be my first experience and the first time I fell in love with fashion. And yes, I was about 17 at that time. And it was an experience that I would say has led me all through my fashion journey and even till now, because I learned quite a lot. I learned about, you know, inventory, I learned about customer service, I learned about the production, I learned about so many things because at a point I was literally the one in charge of the store. And then we now had outlets as well, like in Maloney Supermarket then. And so I was managing all of these branches, and to have all that at that age, it was quite, you know, it's quite empowering, I would say. And eventually when I left the store, I started off on my own, and that would be like when I was 20, 21 or something like that.
And that's a very early age to actually start your own thing, and especially in an era where you had the fusion of the punk rock era, but then here in Nigeria was the Ankara era.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the Ankara era then, but the punk rock, yes. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because I kind of like rocked that age.
You rocked it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a very interesting era when you have all the, you know, different hair color, the mohawk, the various belts,
the leather, the belts.
And
everything. I'm not. It's just I loved it as well. You know, I'm not a very rocky person, but
it was very interesting, very lovely, and especially also being in fashion. Then you had to dress the part. You know, so people come in, they see the way you're dressed up, and it was even more interesting and fun because my boss then was like an expat, you know, and so she didn't have any qualms about you coming to work with your boots on and your miniskirt and you know.
So how do we get from that punk rock era to you starting your own line and infusing the Nigerian element, the African element, and making it so what's the word, contemporary?
Well, I think I was saying earlier that when I left the store, I started off making uniforms. And again, Apapa was a great influence. You had all the ports, you had all the marine offices, you know, functions. So you had the Tom line, Maersk line, all of them.
Yeah.
And so I was now busy servicing them in terms of coveralls, and sometimes we're doing fire retardant fabrics for people that want to do like
ZZ Industries. Now that was what it was called.
Industrial clothing.
Industrial clothing.
Yeah. And so we kind of like dabbled into that. I learned also about fabrics, fire retardant fabrics, and all of those kind of. It was a growing up and educating aspect for me, learning about textiles, you know, for various uses, especially if industrial purposes.
So that formed most of your education, because I read one time when you were during an interview, you said you were lucky enough not to have the kind of education people have.
Yeah, the formal education
people have. Talk to us about that exactly.
Funny enough though, most times when I say this, a lot of people that know me go like, never you say that you didn't have any formal education, because you are more versed than a lot of people, and I'm grateful to that for that, because you know, when you feel you're deficient in something and you want to take the vitamins to augment it. So basically that's what I did in terms of me not having that formal education, like the tertiary education. I just did secondary school, and that was it. And I was not lucky enough to have a university degree.
I say you were lucky enough because look what all that time did for you.
Yeah, so, you know, it's hindsight now. You look at it like, oh, you know.
Yeah, I had the time.
I had the time, and I didn't waste it. And so because of that too, I tell people, a lot of young people that are going through, oh, I'm just done with school, I want to get into the next phase, and I'm like, hey, hang on a bit. What exactly do you want to do? This career or this education or this course you want to do now, is that something you want to pursue later on in life? And most times you hear, no, it's not. I'm like, so why do you want to waste those years, waste the resources, waste all of that just to have a degree that you're not going to expand on? And I think that's the greatest problem we're having here in Nigeria as well. When people go, there's no work, because a lot of people spend 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, plus strikes and all of that, to go through an education that you don't intend to pursue as a career. And so you find people who did maybe social sciences or something, and you're expecting to get a job at the bank or in an oil company, and you become disillusioned, you become, you know, because you feel there's no job, but your qualifications don't really fit those places you're looking for, and that is the honest truth.
Very true. Very true. So all of that now, you coming from a papa, you learning fashion from, from being a sales girl to servicing workplaces, ZZ Industries, industrial clothing is what I'm talking about. And then let's talk about the background. I want to put all of these together before asking how it comes together to become ZZ Kado. Well, but the one bit I really want to talk about is you being the 11th child out of 15.
Oh my goodness!
That is a lot of brothers and sisters, mostly brothers.
Yes, mostly brothers. And, well, my dad, I would say, is a bandit, or was a bandit. That's all I can say about it, because I don't know how he was able to, you know, just get it bang, 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 like that, 555. So my mom was the least of the wives, and I happened to be her first.
Okay.
And so I had like 10 other siblings that are older than I am. Again, it's very interesting, very formative, very educative.
Did having a lot of brothers sort of like affect your style, your sense of style?
It does. It does. At heart, I'm a tomboy. And so I don't have that thing like a lot of women do. I want to go to the salon, I want to have a facial, I want to do this, I want to do that. I don't have those.
That's because it's natural. I mean, look at that skin.
I don't know if it's natural, but it's just, you know, I grew up learning how to jump off mango trees to prove that you're man enough, you know, because you have all these brothers who are trying to, you know, they're jumping off these trees, they're jumping off rooftops. You know those days, you don't have laptops, you don't have the thing, so everybody is out there on the streets.
The outside was our Instagram.
The outside world.
It was beautiful.
So I had to navigate all of that. I had to learn to live with a lot of people, and with that also you learn tolerance, because there's so diverse characteristics and all of that. So you learn tolerance. You learn how to manage or micromanage people, how to be
manage
patient.
Different characters, different nuances.
Yes. But most importantly, it teaches you about life, really. It gives you that lessons that you cannot find outside. I was regaling my assistant the other day of some of the things we get up to, you know, in terms of pranks. So you find your antennas are always at an alert, you know. You know, you just now know how to figure out.
Yeah, we didn't have notifications, guys. Our notification was the sun or it's or your father's car coming from afar. Like, that's daddy, I gotta go. Very interesting.
We had a thing then, you know, when my dad is coming home, there was a kind of signal with the driver and us in the house. So once he's done the
turn around the bend.
Yes, turn around the bend. There's a way he hunks. You know,
everybody scatter.
There's a coach to it. And once you hear that, everybody's like
Yeah, everybody's dads in the
right?
80s and 70s had one of those, signals that gave you that, that's our notification, let's get up. This is the final part of our little tete-a-tete here, but I'm sure that there's a little girl out there who knows that brand ZZ Kado, and they're aspiring to be you. What is the one thing that you'd say that, they should hold steadfast onto real quick?
It would be perseverance. It would be the fact that they believe mostly in themselves. They have to believe in what they're doing. Sadly, a lot of people get into different vocations or careers here because it's what's trending. And so I want to be part of it. I remember when it was beading. A lot of people got into beading. At one point it was salon. Everybody got into, hairdressing, salon, all of that kind of thing. And of course what happens is eventually fizzles out. If you don't have the passion or the calling for it, it just kind of like fizzle out, because you cannot base your growth or your sustenance on somebody else's personal journey with their own business. So you need to have that perseverance, you need to have it in you. And I think when that formed really the birth of Zizi Cardo, the Ankara or the ethnic brand, because I had this belief that as Nigerians, especially, we need to have a kind of identity for ourselves, which as at that time we didn't. I keep saying this. You could see a Malian or a Sudanese or somebody from the Zulu tribe, and you could identify them with their clothing. But as at 90s and 20s, we didn't have any of that. A lot of people were more into buying the ready-made stuff, and so I wanted to create that identity. And I think that what formed it was, I had a trip one time to Ghana, and I saw their fabrics are so beautiful, and I kind of saw the way they embraced their traditions. They had all this thing in Adinkra and all of that, and I really loved it. They had even gold pieces, made out of their Adinkra symbols, and I thought that was really beautiful. And so I was like, you know what, it just goes with what I had in my mind, because even as at then, 98, 97, I was very much into the Ankara fabrics, and I was just doing it for myself. And funny enough, I had a stint with Leventis stores. I was supplying them then. I was making and supplying them, but people were not understanding what it was. But those were all my formative years.
Exactly.
And so when I started Zizi Cardo, it was a dream I had in my head, and the fact that I held on to it. When I actually started the brand itself, 2000, it was just based on the fact that I wanted to use all that we have. The Ankara, the Ashoke, Kurukuru Bite, Akwete, Akwacha, all of those kind
everything to identify a Nigerian brand.
Identify, a Nigerian brand. And if I didn't believe in myself then, I would have fizzled out. Because first year, second year, third year, it was a terrible nightmare.
I can imagine.
So nobody, even, it took years for people to begin to
finish up.
It took years for people to begin to understand the dream or the vision I had.
So I'm thinking of that lady out there who's thinking of being like you. So I guess you've heard it. Just
believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself, persevere, you'll get there. It's been a very, very interesting conversation with you. Absolutely have enjoyed intruding into your life a bit. And thank you for welcoming us into your space. Welcome. And thank you for being on our Creative Corner.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yes, indeed. And that's it. Let's get back into the studio now.
And that was a wonderful conversation there with Mazino and Zizi Cardo. She is one of the foremost Nigerian fashion designers, contemporary Nigerian fashion designers who have contributed immensely to the Nigerian fashion space there indeed. And you can see some of her designs and just her talking through her beginnings as well as her creative process and everything in between. She blends just natural African aesthetics, Nigerian aesthetics, as well as, modern, just giving a bit of modern twist to it. And we absolutely It was a fun watch. Well, Mizuno, it was clear that you had yourself a good time.
I actually did.
I know.
And you should be in the presence of Zizi Kado. She's such an exciting person.
She's a regal,
vibrant.
That's a beautiful woman. Everybody say yellow.
There we go again. This is your this thing, in any case. Now, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go right into what we had prepared from before, and that is about Children's Day for tomorrow, which, of course, is being celebrated here. Now, Nigeria will commemorate Children's Day in Nigeria and, of course, across the world with very vibrant and joyous celebrations dedicated to the nation's young ones, which is usually marked in schools with celebrations and parades and matches and cultural displays. So ahead of tomorrow's activities, we would like to reflect on the future of the Nigerian child. The topic of our Pre-Children's Day special is, of course, the theme for this year. Investing in our future means investing in our children. Education is the cornerstone of the nation's progress, and our children are the future leaders, innovators, and also change makers. And investing in education is crucial, especially in the 21st century.
Yes, indeed. And now to discuss the importance of investing in children's education, we're joined by the two esteemed guests. Now, we know that one of them is, unfortunately, can't make it, but we'll try to make that connection with her. But in the meantime, we have on standby joining us via video chat, and that is Sonia, and she's an author. Sonia, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for being so kind and joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Let's get started very quickly, shall we? And let's just pretty much just talk about education in general. And I would like to start by you. You know, we're talking about investing in children's education. Talk to us about how crucial it is for the Nigerian child.
Thank you. Early childhood education is crucial, and why? Why is it crucial? Provides a vital role in a child's development. It is the strong foundation that the child needs for later academic, social, and formative growth. You know, during a child's formative years, the child's brain is like a sponge. It absorbs all the new experiences, new languages, basically everything around the environment. So early childhood education is key. It is very important that it's timely and done when the child is young and most impressive. Thank you.
So can you share insights into, you just talked about especially when the child is young, right? So share a bit of insight into the role of early childhood education, especially in shaping it. Just give us more insight on that.
Okay, like when a child is young, the child first learns from his immediate environment, languages. Yes, if you speak English, and example, I'm an Igbo girl, you speak Igbo. And living in Lagos, I speak Yoruba. That child is able to grasp 3 languages in the beginning. He can speak English, he can speak Igbo, and he can speak Yoruba. Okay? So that child's brain is soaking up all the nursery rhymes that you as our parents is singing, and you know, communicating with the child is you can sing blah 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 sheep and other things. So yes, when the child is young, you need to start early, exposed to education. In a family of 4 children, where only one child has a private education, you can see the last. You can see that one child is better than the other 4 children. So it's better that you start this early so that for the later academic growth, you see the emotional growth is there, and the formative years, they go through it easily, and it's better for the child in the long run.
Well, okay, Sonia, I've got a question for you, but first I wanted to ask, you're an author. What's the name of your book and who is it directed to?
Okay, the name of my book is Don't Touch My Body. It's directed to children from 3 to 5 years old.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I'm going to come back and ask specific questions about that book. But first, I wanted to ask you what exactly the importance is of literal education for kids, especially in their formative years. How important is it that kids begin to learn things literally from books or from reading or storytelling generally?
Okay, storytelling, literature. These things provide psychological and educational benefits. Example, their imagination becomes enhanced. They can visualize spoken words, their dreams, and you know, sometimes you hear them, you ask them, who are you speaking to? They're like, oh, that's my friend. Where is the friend? I can't see the friend. They're imagining, their cognitive skills are, you know, becoming more enhanced. They can visualize things and they can improve their vocabulary. It gives them more refined communication skills, helps them dream, helps them like start getting ambitious at a younger age.
Okay, so now let's talk specifically about your book, Don't Touch My Body. Why was it essential to have that book out for kids in their formative years?
It was very important because I noticed that the ages of sexual abuse in kids have risen over the years. Like it's continued rising. Like if you look at the papers, the dailies, you see as young as 3 months, as young as 6 months. This is sickening. And, you know, this has happened to someone close to me. So it's from a place of love. And I'm like, and this person was abused at a very young age. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me try. I have kids now, and I'm really careful with who's around them. So let me try and put something out there to help other mothers, fathers to be like, to able to teach their children about consent and whoever is in their space. So that's why this book came about.
Okay then, Sonia. Well, now regarding how children, especially here in Africa, are faced with cultural restrictions or let's say limits regarding how they can express themselves when it comes to the topic that you talked about in your book, how have you been able to manage it, or how do you suggest that parents manage this kind of education? Let's put it so.
Oh, thank you. So yes, statistically, people say you should talk to your children about consent from age 8 to 14, that's before puberty. But I think that's too late because your child leaves you at, okay, basically age 3 to 5, they're going to school and everything. So I think you should teach your child about consent, about their personal space earlier than that. Because in the African setting, you hear this is your uncle, this is your auntie, you don't hear this is teacher and everything. So they think everybody is part of their family. No. So you have to teach your child that, okay, you know what? This is what is wrong. Nobody should pick you up and put you on their laps. Nobody should kiss you on your lips. Nobody should hug you tightly or try to look at your private. You have to teach your child that before they even go to school. You understand? So that you protect your child from the wolves that are in sheep clothing around us. Because it can be anybody. It can be your neighbor. It can be their teacher, it can be anybody. So your child has to know that, an African child has to know that before you go out, oh, that's your uncle, that's your auntie, but don't let them do this, don't let them fondle you, don't let them behave this way towards you. So it has to be early. As long as the child can speak, can say yes, can say no, can say mommy and daddy, your child has to have education about consent.
Well, many thanks, Sonia. We're going to take a short break to bring us the news, but we'll come back to you to continue this conversation and make it more robust. Many thanks again. And now it's time for us to switch gears as we bring in the news. Debola is on standby, and she's with you for the news. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adeduba. We begin in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Lagos State to inaugurate the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, estimated to cost about 15 trillion naira. In a statement on Saturday, presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga said the president will commission several projects completed under his administration to celebrate his one-year anniversary. Lagos is the president's first point of call, as other projects commissioning will take him to other parts of the country during the week, beginning Sunday till Friday. Let's head to Kano, where the Nigerian police says that it will not comply with the order by the state governor, Abba Yusuf, to arrest the post-emir of the state, Aminu Ado Bayero, for allegedly disrupting the peace of the state. The Kano State Police Commissioner made this known to newsmen in Kano, the state capital, saying the order of a court in the state compels the police to keep the peace and maintain status quo, pending the determination of a suit challenging the state government on June the 3rd. Our correspondent Emmanuel Bugudu reports.
Widespread jubilation in Kano as supporters of the deposed emir welcome the reinstatement of the 16th emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II. After being deposed by former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, the wait has been long, but now finally over. With the law legitimizing his removal now repealed by the current legislative and executive arms of government in Kano State, Sanusi Lamidu has now returned to take back his position.
So let me, at this material time, congratulate our Emir, His Royal Highness.
This is Gidan Sarkin Nasarawa, a home of refuge for the deposed Emir, Aminu Ado Bayero in Kano State. The deposed Emir has been protected by the police, despite being instructed by the state governor to effect his arrest.
The police command is expressly obeying the court order with suit number FHC/KN/CS/182/2024 dated 23rd May 2024, issued by the Federal High Court sitting in Kano alongside all law enforcement agents in the state. Therefore, we are calling on members of the public to know that the police in the state is working together with the military and other security agencies and are with full capacity for providing the adequate security to everyone, as we are committed to carrying out our statutory duties as provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Despite a heavy police presence in the area, the supporters of the deposed Emir are not leaving things to chance, but have amassed the venue to protect their principle.
We want the state government, both the state government and the people of Kano State, including the security agents, let them obey the court order. That's what we are all after.
We are in 100% of our Emir, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, and inshallah he is our Emir forever and ever. So all we need here is just to obey the rules and regulations, because the court order said that Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, he is still the Emir of Kano State. So we beg the federal government and the state government for the peace of Kano State and the entire Nigeria in general. So we want the former Emir of Kano State just to follow the rules and regulations about the court order.
Of Kano State, I'm support Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero as an Emir of Kano State. We don't want Sanusi anymore. This is what our governor did. It's very, very wrong, which is we want the federal government to intervene about the issue, because we can't stand like this. We don't want Sanusi anymore.
Back to the official palace of the reinstated Emir Mohammed Sanusi II. It's a carnival-like atmosphere as the new Emir sits on the throne for the first time in 4 years, receiving dignitaries.
In any case, it is an interim injunction. The law has already been passed. It has been assented to. An Emir has been installed in place in accordance with the provisions of the law. So what injunction are we to abide by? Ask them, because they are the people who told you. Does that confer on them to Cheta applied for the dethroned Emir?
Although the new Emir has continued his celebration, there are growing fears over an escalation in insecurity, as thugs carrying arms can be visibly seen around the palace and that of his deposed rival.
All eyes are now in Kano as peace groups, civil society organizations, opinion leaders continue to sue for peace. It is expected that the emirate tussle will soon come to an end and make Kano remain peaceful as it is known for. In Kano State for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
And to a rather sad story where the former chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Lamode, has reportedly died in Egypt at the age of 61. It was reported that Lamode died on Sunday in Egypt, where he had traveled for medical treatment. Born on December 20, 1962, Lamode joined the Nigerian police in 1986 and retired as a Deputy Inspector General of Police in 2021. He was appointed in an acting capacity as chairman of the commission in November 3, 2011, following removal of Farida Waziri from former President Goodluck Jonathan. Away from Nigeria, Burkina Faso's military regime in power since 2022 school will extend its rule for 5 years under an accord adopted during national consultations on Saturday. Colonel Musa Diallo, chairman of the organizing committee of the National Dialogue Process, made this known after the talks. He said the duration of the transition is fixed at 60 months from July 2nd, 2024. The radical left opposition party in South Africa, Economic Freedom Fighters, has held its final rally ahead of May 29 election. The EFF had their last big pre-election gathering in the northern city of Polokwane, the hometown of fiery leader Julius Malema. Speaking at the rally, Malema said the party has already won the elections.
Declaring a war against criminals. We are declaring a war against rapists. We are declaring a war against GBV. South Africa shall be place of peace. South Africa shall be place of law and order. People of South Africa have said to us, when you take over, please remove the corrupt police who are distributing drugs using the vans of the police. You must take them to jail for no less than 25 years.
We are hoping that by voting for EFF, this country will have a direction, will have a decisive leadership that will take us somewhere. Thank you.
There is no any young person who can allow old people to decide on his or her own future. Because we are the ones who are here. We must decide on our future and see.
Today's year's President, Kais Saied, has replaced the Interior and Social Affairs ministers in an unexpected cabinet reshuffle following a wave of detainment. President Kais Saied appointed Khalid Nori as a new Minister of Interior, replacing Kamel Feki, who was previously seen as a close ally of the president. Additionally, Kamel Madori has been appointed as a new Minister of Social Affairs, replacing Malek Zahi. The reshuffle also established a new position, Secretary of State overseeing national security under the Interior Minister. The reshuffle also comes on the heels of a series of detainments over the past 2 weeks. And that's all on the news. It's back to Judith and Mazzino.
You're welcome back. Thank you very much for coming back to us. Thank you, Debola, for bringing us the news. Of course, we are still in the mood for tomorrow's celebration, the 27th of May, which happens to be Children's Day across the world. And of course, the theme this year is investing in our children means investing in the future. And we did say from before that we're going to continue that conversation that we had with Sonia, and that's what we're going to do as soon as we can establish communication back with her. But, however, we are going to continue right here inside the studio, where we know that education is a very key factor when it comes to investing in children. So, in a bid to make sure that we go full circle on the conversation, we have with us Dr. Joy Issa, education consultant and president, Issa School of Education. And, of course, she's been with us from before. You're welcome again. Good to have you back.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I know we promised that we're going to make the conversation as robust as possible,
yes,
and from our last time. So hopefully this time we're going to do justice to that time. You know, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. We'll also remember that we're supposed to have Sonia. She's going to make that connection back with us, to the children's book author. But let me start with you, Dr. Joy. Investing in our children's education. I asked earlier, but I'm going to ask you as well. Could you start by, explaining why investing in children's education is crucial for Nigeria's future?
First off, Nigeria's population, the mean age of Nigeria's population is 17.2, which means 50%, 1 in 2 Nigerians under the age of 18. If we do not invest in them, if we don't equip them with the skills, the knowledge and skills they need to be responsible adults, we are in trouble as a nation. So on that fundamental, just from that point alone, from a population point alone, there are too many young people to just leave, to leave the education of, the raising of, the building of, to leave it to arbitrary happenstance. And the number of private schools versus the number of public schools leaves much to be desired in terms of attention. So if you look at the data, it's about, I checked it quickly before coming. Okay. The number of public schools in senior secondary public schools is just about 9,500, but the number of private schools is 17,400. So we blame the government a lot, right? Oh, not enough, investment in education, not enough money is put in there. However, the government cannot raise our children alone. It's just, there are too many of us, in a sense. And because we have these private schools established, attention needs to be paid to the private sector, the private education sector. Who's regulating that sector? What are we doing in the Office of Quality Assurance? That's where I think the government can invest a bit more in education to say, can we pay attention to these private schools? In Lagos State, for example, there are about 20,000 private schools. And as at the last count with the previous commissioner, only about 5,000 of them are approved. So I just, feel passionate. I need to help these out-of-school children. I open a school in my backyard. Yes. While that is providing a service, and it is valid because we do need structure in terms of raising our children. We need to help them gain the digital competencies, literacy skills, numeracy skills. I think we should add social responsibility and entrepreneurship because we don't have enough formal jobs for the teeming population. So if we teach them entrepreneurship skills from the base, foundation, then they can grow up and be meaningful contributors to society. So yeah, so if you circle back, you just think, okay, can we pause and really reflect? Who's going to make this investment? From a government standpoint, only about 6-point-something% of the budget is in education. There's a lot to say about that, but let's just leave it there. We have so many private schools, private learning organizations, who's paying attention to those? And what is going on in those schools? I think that's where we need to search, to shine the searchlight a bit more.
We understand that Sonia has joined us. She's live now, joining us via video chat. Sonia, are you there? We just want to make... Sonia, are you there? There you are. All right, welcome back. Now, you're muted. I understand that your audio is muted. If you can help us to unmute. In the meantime, we're talking about the challenges, right? And you're talking, how then can the government address these challenges in helping to, bring all the other children that are out of the system effectively back into the system?
Partnering with the private schools, partnering with private organizations, NGOs, mosques, churches, all these people who are well-meaning citizens who want to make a difference. Yeah, partner with them so they can establish the learning organizations. They can establish the entrepreneurial hubs. They can establish these things. However, government is responsible for regulation. The Office of Quality Assurance needs to be active and not just passive. Unfortunately, there's a saying amongst us that when the inspectors come, just, give them rice, give them drinks, put them in the corner office, send a few notes and things, then just give them what you want them to see. We need to move away from that to them understanding that they have a responsibility to make sure the private educators are doing what we should be doing. That, I think, is a real key. Pay attention to the Office of Quality Assurance.
Okay.
Invest, so teach the inspectors what to look out for in today's world. Not the, inspectorates from let's say 1945. Come up, are these schools teaching digital competencies? I mean, in this world, why are we still answering questions on what is a typewriter?
Very interesting question there. Very true. I'm going to come to you, Sonia, if you're with us. Sonia, so from your perspective now as an author, and of course we have in the studio here Dr. Joy, who's talking about these instances from an educationist's point of view. Both of you are on two different facts that are very important in this. But how do we bridge the gap when it comes to nurturing, which is what you do being an author, and education, which is what Dr. Issa here does as an educationist? Where do we bridge those two together?
Okay, we can bridge the gap with nurturing and education with literature, basically. Folklore, like a lot of things we can do with that. We can teach our children about activities in our various.
Sonia, we lost you again. Your audio. Sonia, I think we lost you. There we are. We have lost Sonia there. You're talking about challenges, Ellie, and she was also just a bit more on those challenges, right? Can innovation play in technology? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You just talked about the style of teaching still being rooted back in the 40s. How then can we bring it back?
Before I even answer your question, just to add to what Sonia said
Yes,
about
please.
folklore, we have a culture of storytelling as Africans. And I think that is so important and should be embedded or should be reintroduced to our education systems. Get the children to read. Get them to read the stories. Get them to write the stories. Get them to talk about experiences from the lens of an African child. Get grandma and grandpa to come to school and tell us what life was like and get us to record or chronicle our history and our stories again. That will be, you need to know where you were so you know where you're going to, and you don't lose the essence of who you are as an African. So I think including our stories, getting authors like Sonia to write more children's stories, more about our cultural perspectives to life would be fantastic. And so again, the gap now becomes embedding these stories into the curriculum. So these stories now become part of the literature texts, required reading, and government-approved texts for schools at different levels. And you will see the handshake so beautifully. The government requires that, or suggests that we teach children in L1, first language, up to age 3, up to primary 3, sorry. So if my first language is Igbo, I can go to school and in primary school understand foundational concepts in Igbo. Then I learn English and I can apply them better. Worldwide, this is practice. Imagine if we had the Igbo stories written in beautiful English. And so my mom told me the story, but now I'm reading it in English. It makes sense. I have a deeper conceptual understanding of the morals and the values being taught. As I pour that out in any standardized test or exam, it comes to life easier. So just getting that opportunity, I guess collaborating with authors, people who are invested in education to say, okay, can we really pay attention to this curriculum? NERDC is the regulating body for curriculum. Can NERDC, can we have a, public-private sector partnership? The government cannot publish all the books. The government cannot do all this investment in research. I think they should do more in terms of research and development. We need active investment in that area. Notice I've been saying invest.
Well, that's the theme, isn't it?
The government needs to invest because, I own a school, perhaps 30 children, 40 children, 200 children. How much am I going to ask the parents to pay in terms of tuition that will allow me set up my research and development department? I think that's where the government can come in.
So we understand that Sonia is back as well. Sonia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Now, you were giving us your answer to Mazino's question about bridging the gap or the intersection between just nurturing and education.
Yes, this can be done with folklore, storytelling. That's why it's really important, like if we want to teach our children about how to build a community, you teach children about divided we stand, united we stand, divided we fall, through folklore, through storytelling. Like, you want to teach your children about like lying. You tell them about where the child that told the story about woof, 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 and then, there's different ways you can through history, storytelling. Those are different ways that we can bridge the gap between nurturing and education.
Now, during our conversation earlier, we were talking about pretty much parents' involvement in the children's learning and how they play a very pivotal role in learning, especially at early age, right? But we see that in the climate that we live in, capitalism seems to be winning You know, it's winning a fight against, you know, just parents, present parents who actually want to be parents. I want you to speak on that and how parents can just be more intentional in investing in in children's education, especially for early childhood.
Yes. Okay, that question is for me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can be more... Sorry, please, you can hear my children in the background. I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Okay, you can like talk to your children when they come back home about the school activities, you know, ask them, oh, hi, how was your day? How was your activity? What happened in class? And listen, you know, listen to what they say, and then you can sift out what they have heard in school, and you know, the things you need to reinforce upon you reinforce, and the things that you need to, you know, to remove and rebuke lightly, you say, okay, no, that's not supposed to happen and everything. And you can also promote reading by reading yourself. My child sees me writing. She knows that she has to read and write, you know. You also have to limit and monitor TV, social media, or games, the time that they spend on these things, you have to limit it. And also express to your child, I'm proud of you, but I expect you to do more. I expect your standards to come up more, and then just hope for the best with them, and like just be with them all through their learning journey.
Well, thank you very much. Joy, I want to come back to you.
She did a sigh of...
Yeah, exactly. I saw your gestures there while Sonia was giving us her response. Now, regarding what she talked about now, limiting technology generally, what role does technology play? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? We're complaining about being left in the doldrums in the medieval times when it comes to our education system. But then again, technology itself seems to be a distraction. So, once again, the question is bridging the gap.
I like how you said technology seems to be a distraction, because we wouldn't be here without technology. I wouldn't be here, Sonia wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be here. Technology is an asset and not a distraction. The use of technology can be a distraction, but technology in and of itself is an asset. Imagine how in these times, not only can we read stories, we can sign in on some online platform and listen to the stories with full animation, full sound effects, and it feels like I'm in the forest with Nwanze, the spider. That's technology. That's powerful. That just rouses emotions in, you know, the minds of the children, and they're able to have virtual school trips without going to Ghana or going to China or going to the village in Ondo or somewhere. They can relive those experiences. Therein lies the power of technology. In addition, if I even circle back to what we said about how, you know, we can kind of spread this good quality education around, government can assure the quality. If we have, some states, I must give it to the government, some governments have invested in including technology in their schools, where they have these tablets with lesson plans already pre-uploaded, they have children's work already loaded, and the children can access that. So even in remote areas where, you know, they don't have internet access, they have those tabs. That's technology. That's the use of technology. Parents, you can monitor your children using technology. There's some schools that have these apps where when your child signs into school, I get a notification, ding, Joy is safe, Joy is in school. When she's going out on the school bus, ding, she's left, and you can track. So technology is an asset for us in all aspects of education. However, sometimes we're a bit careless. You know, people putting children on social media, I mean, that goes against every safeguarding policy on the planet. You know, your digital footprint is important as a parent, and more so as a child. We should not be displaying our children on social media and, you know, disclosing their locations and things. They're safe. I mean, we should be digitally literate, right? Digitally as parents, so that we are taking responsibility for our children and not just leaving that up to, you know, schools and governments, etc. So technology is an asset, not a distraction.
And I'm sure that technology would also improve or help in improving diversity into...
Absolutely. Imagine if I come to school and I'm hard of hearing, but because I have the assisted device, my teacher speaks, it translates speech to text, and I can read what my teacher's saying in the classroom. So it promotes inclusion. And, I don't have to go to a special school.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Issa, for coming
Always
and joining us
pleasure.
on once again. And also, of course, you, Sonia Ugamanam, thank you for joining us as well, all the way using technology,
Absolutely.
as we can see as an asset. Thank you indeed. Do stay tuned because we've got more coming your way inside of Breakfast Extra for a Sunday edition. We'll be back.
On May 29th, 2023, President Bola Tinubu assumed office as Nigeria's 16th president, succeeding Muhammadu Buhari. Running under the All Progressives Party, Tinubu secured 8.79 million votes, marking a significant victory despite the lowest voter turnout since 1999. Since taking office, President Tinubu has implemented several impactful policies, including the removal of the fuel subsidy, devaluation of the naira, and the introduction of new taxes and increased tariffs. Now, these actions have significantly influenced the economy, leading to notable increases in inflation, food prices, transportation costs, and the exchange rate.
For example, the inflation rate rose from 22.41% in May 2023 to 33.2% in April 2024. Food inflation soared to 40.01%, and the cost of a healthy diet nearly doubled. Transportation costs surged dramatically, with bus fares within cities and between states increasing to 46.2% and 78.7% respectively. The naira's exchange rate against the dollar escalated from 461 naira per dollar to 1,215 naira per dollar. Crude oil product prices, including petrol and diesel, they also saw substantial hikes. President Tinubu's administration presented a budget of 27.5 trillion naira, later increased to 28.7 trillion. The Federal Allocation Account Committee approved 14.6 trillion naira to be distributed across government tiers.
Now, despite these economic challenges, the president has been active internationally, visiting 13 countries over the past year. However, insecurity remains a pressing issue, with over 7,800 fatalities reported in various attacks. As the president clocks 1 year in office 2 days away from today, we take a critical look at his policies of administration and the impact on the country. And to do this, we are joined by Cheta Nwanze. He is a partner, SBM Intelligence, and Segun, he is a political analyst. And gentlemen, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming on.
Welcome, Cheta. Good to have you on board.
Thank you for having me.
So please, let's start by asking the two gentlemen, both here in the studio and you, Cheta. But first, you, Cheta, how do you assess the economic policies and their impact on the average Nigerian so far in the past 1 year?
Thank you for having us again. I think it's fair to it's right to be fair and state that the president started with he was dealt a very bad hand. The government that he replaced, it's important to stress that they're both from the same party, so it's supposed to be continuity. But that was, at least up until 29th May last year, that was demonstrably the worst government in Nigerian history in terms of economic outcomes. So he was already in a hole when he started, and he had to dig out. I would rate him 4/10 thus far, and the reason is simple. In as much as the removal of the petrol subsidy and the devaluation of the naira were very necessary and still are very necessary, the manner in which they were conducted is problematic, to say the least. Unfortunately, we also have questions of fiscal discipline. So, for example, let's start with some of the most basic things. The government officials, including the president himself, do not seem to be cutting down on costs while expecting Nigerians to tighten their belts. On April 2nd, I was passed by the president's convoy in Abuja twice that day. That was the day he went to Senegal for the president of Senegal's inauguration. And I counted 46 cars, 46 vehicles in his convoy. If you are not cutting down, how do you expect people to cut down? So that's one of the things I think that fiscal discipline is probably the biggest thing from an economic standpoint that they have to work on.
Let me come to you, Segun, I beg your pardon. He just said that the removal of the fuel subsidy and the devaluation of the naira has been problematic, and in particular, it's been particularly controversial, right? We've seen how it's affected and how it's snowballed in everything that is affecting our socioeconomic climate. But what are the intended benefits of these policies in the first place, and why have they led to such a significant inflation and cost increases?
Okay, so thanks for having me again. I mean, in terms of intended benefits, the primary objective of those policy initiatives was fiscal structure of the economy. So we had a situation where the budgets that were running was spent largely on subsidies and debt service obligations, which then supposedly, and I say supposedly because some of these things I don't agree with, which then supposedly resulted in a situation where there was inadequate funding for infrastructure and social service development. That was the objective. It's putting it very simply. I beg to differ with regards to the necessity at that time of those policies as a solution to those problems. I think that we do not have a fiscal problem in terms of how we're spending money. I think our problem is a revenue problem and a leakage problem. We've got a massive corruption problem where a significant chunk of the potential revenues that are accruable to the government just simply disappear. They just never make it through, to the federation account. And if the government had focused, rather than cutting off on the subsidies that were desperately required to keep an impoverished population alive, instead of removing those, the government could easily, I think, this is my opinion, a lot will differ, actually, and a lot of my fellow economic analysts differ, and I respect that, but I think that the government could easily have done a number of reforms that would have significantly increased our revenue base, such that, yes, you do need to cut some things off, but it's counterintuitive and counterproductive, as we have seen, to cut off the very things that kept the economy alive. So I understood the fiscal structural imbalances, but I think that the solution that we went after was wrong. And to make matters worse, we then went for those solutions and implemented them so horribly poorly that we are now left in a situation where we're dealing with firefights all over the place. The consequences of the implementation approach has left us reeling and struggling for control. So as we speak today, the central bank is reeling out policies almost on a weekly basis, and it looks as if it's all haphazard. There is no coordination. There is no clear direction as to what exactly the objectives of the CBN's policies are with regards to the overall economic development of the country. So I think that the government shot itself in the foot by taking on those bullets too quickly, too hurriedly. There was a clear political agenda to grandstand and make certain positions clear, locally and to the international community. It should have been more measured, even if we're going to remove subsidies, arguably. Even if we're going to find a way to deal with the chaos that was happening in the foreign exchange market. I think it should have been more measured. I think that the government should have taken all of its options into consideration before coming forward. So there was unnecessary haste.
So the haste has now meant that the intended plan for it, or what achievements were supposed to be.
Absolutely. So we've lost all of the potential benefits that could have had. So, for example, the subsidies could have been removed 6 months later, could have been removed this year. Some argue that if he hadn't done it then, that the cabals and the cartels that were supposedly running those things would have prevented it from doing so. I disagree. I think we tend to underestimate the power of the president of a country as big as Nigeria when we say those types of things. So, the rush was unnecessary.
Cheta, I want to come to you. Now, if you've heard Mr. Sopitan here, he's told that this was done in a haste. These policies, while they served, or they were supposed to serve to help us put us back on the straight and narrow, they're actually working in adverse for the Nigerian population. In your opinion, Cheta, what do you think the president should have done at the first before going on to put in these policies to try and help Nigerians?
Yeah, it's very interesting that both myself and Segun basically said the same thing in using very different language. I think the only place where we diverge is that I think that it was the right thing to do, but like I said, I think that it was done in the wrong manner. What Segun has said is very correct. We need more revenue. But underlying that is we need to understand the structure of our economy. What is the main driver in respect to inflation in Nigeria? It's food. What is the main thing that is driving food inflation right now? One of the things is security. Essential security is a huge component of that. This is something that I've been talking about since at least 2014. So we actually need very, very critically and very, very urgently to bring security situation on that hill. It's something that this current president appears to have ignored, and it's the security situation is quietly spreading under his watch. That means that a lot of farmers are not going to the farms. It means that we are under more pressure to import food in order to make ends meet, or if we can't import food, and it's very difficult to import food now because of the rising cost of the rising falling value of the naira, then we're basically up a bad creek without a paddle, and that's where we are. Inflation food is a huge component of inflation. We need to bring that down urgently. I think that's the first thing that I would have tackled if I were him. The security component of what we have, and then following that power. You can't have the productivity necessary to raise tax revenue if you don't have power, and power is now very expensive. It's now a big problem. I'm on band A, and being on band A is not something that is very happy for me. Let's just put it like that.
As I say, SBM Intelligence, there's a number of intelligence or data that you guys have collated, especially in the last 1 year, right? From the drastic rise in transportation and food costs, to also insecurity as well. With all the measures and the policies that the government is implementing, are they doing well, or should they be doing it in another way entirely to help to mitigate, mitigate this attacks, especially insecurity on food, driving up the prices of food, as well as, just the cost of living in general?
They ought to do things differently, because at the end of the day, it's about results, and it is clear that the results are not good. A few weeks ago, we published a report, The Price of Everything, which you covered on this show. And one of the things that stood out to us in that report was the fact that the top 30 things that went up in price over the last 1 year were things that people use everyday items. So it begs the question: how is the average person breathing if things that he uses every day, Dudu Ocean went up by 180%, and petrol went up by 161%, sanitary pads went up by 129%, Indomie noodles went up by 105%. Those kind of everyday items, onions, 98%. Nobody's salary goes up by 50% in 1 year. So how are people coping? If your population cannot cope with the rising cost of living, you can't expect a productivity jump. If they begin to prioritize what they will spend money on, then you can't expect them to pay taxes, and then you will have that revenue shortfall that we're having, where we have a situation where last week both Punch and Leadership reported very different things in terms of the government's revenue targets. The Leadership reporting that the government missed its revenue target by a staggering 745%. So if we can't meet our revenue targets, then we have a problem. And all of this is reflected in Q1 numbers. It means that Q2 numbers are going to be even worse than Q1 numbers. We have to be, it's something that we need to be very conscious about. The fact that that confidence in the economy is going out the window. Again, I will still go back to stress: you cannot have public confidence if you don't have fiscal discipline. And fiscal discipline is probably one of the first things that the governments will have to work on. They need to be seen to be spending money in a thrifty manner and in a responsible manner, not the way they've been doing thus far.
I like the way you put that. Spend money in a thrifty manner. Mr. Sopitan, let me come to you now. Now, we've talked about food security endlessly, actually, because that is most important on people's plates, and I use that deliberately. However, what about security? 7,800 deaths since Tinubu took office. How is his administration doing when it comes to security? We've had kidnappings here and there, even in places that we didn't expect them from before. I don't want to lead you on, but in your own view, what do you think the administration has done right when it comes to insecurity, or what they're not doing enough of?
I think that the focus of the administration is skewed in the wrong direction. I think, and this is really unfortunate, I think that the administration is carried away with too much of politics. And, it's important to remind the handlers of the president, not the president himself because he's got advisors, that the elections are over. And it's time for governance. I keep saying this everywhere that I have the opportunity. And why do I say this? There seems to be an undue focus on engagement in the public space over issues that, for me, do not affect the lives of Nigerians, while things are getting worse. You will recall that a few weeks ago, let me say a few months, Abuja became a center of fear. People were literally afraid in their homes, because people were getting picked up by kidnappers in their homes. I remember a video that trended heavily on air about some guy that was kidnapped in an estate, in a very highbrow estate, heavily protected, heavily guarded estate. And these things were happening, and this is the seat of power. And one could argue that even in the worst period under President Jonathan, when the insecurity appeared to have been the worst at that time, 2013, 2014. I'm not sure that there was a time when people that lived in FCT were actually afraid to go out, aside from those initial bombings, Yaya bombing, and all of those things that happened then. So it looks to me as if I've not heard enough from this administration on the issue of security and what the security architecture, as we like to say, is doing in a concerted manner to bring the different types of insecurity we have across the different areas of the country under control. Boko Haram, whether we like it or not, are still alive and well. They're still operating in the northeast predominantly. In the northwest and parts of the north central, you've still got the issue of the bandits kidnapping people at will. The numbers are alarming. These people walk into schools and make away with 200, 300 people at the same time. And they demand ransoms, and they get them before they release people. And this thing has spread down southwards as well. The issues in the east are still there. So now I'm trying to remember as I speak now any deliberate, concerted messaging from the president himself regarding security. I can't remember any. So it looks as if the focus of the administration is not in those areas. Security, like Cheta said, power, electricity. How can you drive development if you do not have a safe and secure environment? How can you drive development and economic progress if you do not have electricity? How can you have development and economic progress if you don't have fiscal and economic stability in the major macroeconomic indicators? So it looks as if wherever you turn, there's just a bit of disorder.
So, gentlemen, what we see here is a case of ballooned budget. That's frivolous spending. We've talked about that. We've talked about insecurity, the high cost of living, high prices in transportation, electricity, that is power, and food as well. 365 days in office from 2 days from today. What should be the next what should this next 365 days look like for Tinubu's led administration? Let's start with you, Cheta.
Unfortunately, he spent the last 1 year digging the hole that he found himself deeper. That's the way I look at it. It's almost as if the president and people around him do not realize that they came in with a trust deficit already. Based on the official numbers, the election that brought him in saw the lowest turnout in our history, essentially meaning that people are turned off from the whole democratic experiment already. And then of that, it was very close between the top three contenders in terms of the official results. So you had the president having 8 million and the person who was declared third, Peter Obi, having 6 million. So in between all of that, so already he has a trust deficit that he's working against, and he hasn't done much to try and reach out to bring everybody under a big tent. It's going to be very difficult to work towards whatever goals you want to, especially given that those goals require taking hard pills if you do not bring everybody together. So I think that's what he needs to focus on now.
All right, Cheta.
To build that confidence.
Thank you, Cheta. Real quick, Mr. Sopitan, because we have to go.
Well, I like Cheta said, unfortunately for me, so Cheta says we've dug ourselves into a hole deeper. I think, in addition to that, for me, the first year has been a year of missed opportunities. It's been a year where we should have set the tone for how development was going to happen over the next 3 years. We've lost that. So to answer your question, what needs to happen for the next 1 year under this administration is to catch up on the things that we've lost, to set the foundational framework that will drive long-term development. I don't think we've seen enough of that. In power and electricity, for example, what's the plan? How are we going to move from 5,000 that we've been stuck at for 24 years? How are we going to move from that to, say, 10,000 in the next 2 or 3 years? So those are the kind of things that we need to desperately hear from the president, across board on the major indicators that drive the livelihood of Nigerians. So at the end of the day, it's all about the people.
Well, many thanks, gentlemen. We appreciate you for doing this with us and just coming in and giving insight. We look to see what would happen on the 29th as a Tinubu-led administration marks it officially. They have said they'll make it as low-key as possible, but we'll wait to see. But thank you again, Cheta, and many thanks again to you, Segun. And that was Cheta Nwanze and Segun Sopitan, who joined us earlier to share their insight. It's clear that President Tinubu's first year in office has been marked by significant challenges and crucial policy decisions. As Nigeria navigates its complexities, it is imperative that the president or the presidency must do all it can to alleviate the livelihood and just the lives of Nigerians. We'll take a short break. When we come back on the other side, we have Onyechi on standby to bring you sports. Join us again.
Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Extra. Time to take you to the world of sport. We begin with basketball, where Rivers Hoopers suffered a narrow defeat to their counterpart, AS Douanes of Senegal on Saturday. The Nigerian champions, they came on top of the Sahara Conference, but could not get on a good start against AS Douanes. Of course, they were down against them for a sit-in game. Playing at the BK Arena on Saturday evening, AS Douanes dominated the game from the start, and they were leading at 37-23 at halftime. The Senegalese side won the third quarter 50-28 and secured a 63-57 win in the final quarter. Meanwhile, the Nigerian side will face former champions US Minister in the quarterfinal on Monday. We'll be hoping that they do better going into the Basketball Africa League finals. From here to athletics, where Kenyan athletes, they reigned supreme at the 10th Okpekpe 10-kilometer race on Saturday in Okpekpe, Edo State. Edward Zakoya and Gladys Kwambako, they emerged as champion in the men and women's categories. 22-year-old Zakoya, he delivered a stunning performance to win the race in a time of 29 minutes and 31 seconds. Of course, in the women's category, we can say that the compatriot of Isaac Kipwemboy, Alex Oya Tip-Tip, and also his other compatriot came second and third respectively in the elite men's race. In the women's category, 28-year-old Kwambako showed her potential in claiming victory at a time of 33 minutes and 5 seconds. Regina Wambui and Stella Turotic, they placed second and third respectively. Aside the professional athletes, former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore and former Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole, they took part in the race, exciting one. The first and second third place athletes went home with $15,000, $8,000 and $5,000 respectively. Still talking athletics right now, Kenyan Beatrice Chebet has broken the world 10,000 meters world record at the Prefontaine Classic in Eugene, Oregon on Saturday. Chebet, who is 24, clocked 28 minutes, 5.414 seconds in a race that was also billed as the Kenyan Olympic Trials. She became the first woman to break 29 minutes in the event. Of course, having to beat Ethiopian Letinsabet Gidere, her previous world record of 29:01:03 seconds from 2021, in the process picking up the 10,000 meters Olympic ticket. Ethiopian Gude Sege, she led until the 8,800 meters and ended up second with 29 minutes, 05 seconds, and also creating the third fastest time in history. What can the East Africans not do when it comes to long-distance races? They always dominate. Now to the world of football, where the young elephants of Côte d'Ivoire have dashed the hope of Nigeria's Golden Eaglets, reaching the 2025 Under-17 African Cup of Nations and the FIFA World Cup. What really happened? The five-time world champions, they reached the semi-final of the championship with high hopes after winning 2 games and drawing 1 during the group stage. After a goalless draw in the first half, Yeboah Coulibaly, his 54th-minute strike, earned victory for Ivory Coast, a final berth for them, and they will have to go up against Burkina Faso. The result means that the Golden Eaglets, they have failed to qualify for next year's African Cup of Nations, the Under-17 Championship, and they would have been Africa's flag bearer, of course, in the next year's FIFA Under-17 World Cup finals. But right now, that hope has been dashed. So back-to-back, they will not make it to the Under-17 African and the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Finally, let's take it to Europe right now. Manchester United, we did not see them coming. The Red Devils, they served their best performance of a poor season. Of course, way to the end, they saved the very best for the last. They upset Manchester City 2-1 in the FA Cup final on Saturday to deprive their rivals of a double this season. Alejandro Garnacho and Kobe Mainoo, they were match winners in the Red Devils, securing a stunning victory over neighbours Manchester City to lift the 2024 FA Cup and leave Pep Guardiola's double dream in tatters. Premier League champion City, bidding to become the first club to win the double in successive season, had been on a 35-match unbeaten run in all competitions in that open play. But Manchester United have been able to break that one now. They were well below their best in the first half, gifting Garnacho a 30th-minute opener before Mainoo made it 2-0 for Manchester United. City fought back in the second half and ensured a nervy ending when Onana's weak attempts at a save at the 87th minute could not keep out Jeremy Doku's start as he got a consolatory goal. However, United held on and they sealed this memorable victory for the Reds. FA Glory sees United add a second piece of silverware on the Heritage Hag, following up their Carabao Cup win in the last season. It also seals Manchester United a path to European Championship for next season. So you might get to see Manchester United play in the Europa League for next season. Congratulations to the Red Devils. There you have it, sport update at this time. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. I will be handing over to the news anchor, Adebola.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedwa. We begin in Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Lagos State to inaugurate the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, estimated to cost about 15 trillion naira. In a statement on Saturday, presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga said the president will commission several projects completed under his administration to celebrate his one-year anniversary. Lagos is the president's first point of call, as other projects commissioning will take him to other parts of the country during the week beginning Sunday till Friday. To a rather sad story now, where former chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Lamode, has reportedly died in Egypt at the age of 61. It was reported that Lamode died on Sunday in Egypt, where he had traveled for medical treatment. Born on December 20th, 1962, Lamode joined the Nigerian police in 1986 and retired as a Deputy Inspector General of Police in 2021. He was appointed in an acting capacity as chairman of the commission on November 3rd, 2011, following the removal of Farida Waziri by former President Goodluck Jonathan. Let's head to Kano, where the Nigerian police says that it will not comply with the order by the state governor, Abba Yusuf, to arrest the deposed emir of the state, Aminu Ado Bayero, for allegedly disrupting the peace of the state. The Kano State Police Commissioner made this known to newsmen in Kano, the state capital, saying the order of a court in the state compels the police to keep the peace and maintain status quo, pending the determination of a suit challenging the state government on June the 3rd. Our correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu tells us more.
This is Gidan Sarkin Nasarawa, a home of refuge for the deposed Emir, Aminu Ado Bayero in Kano State. The deposed Emir has been protected by the police, despite being instructed by the state governor to effect his arrest.
The police command is expressly obeying the court order with suit number FHC/KN/CS/182/2024 dated 23rd May 2024, issued by the Federal High Court sitting in Kano alongside all law enforcement agents in the state. Therefore, we are calling on members of the public to know that the police in the state is working together with the military and other security agencies and are with full capacity for providing the adequate security to everyone, as we are committed to carrying out our statutory duties as provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Despite a heavy police presence in the area, the supporters of the deposed Emir are not leaving things to chance, but have amassed the venue to protect their principle.
We want the state government, both the state government and the people of Kano State, including the security agents, let them obey the court order. That's what we are all after.
We are in 100% of our emir, Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, and inshallah he is our emir forever and ever. So all we need here is just to obey the rules and regulations, because the court order said that Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, he is still the emir of Kano State. So we beg the federal government and the state government for the peace of Kano State and the entire Nigeria in general. So we want the former emir of Kano State just to follow the rules and regulations about the court order.
President of Kano State, I'm support Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero as an emir of Kano State. We don't want Sunusi anymore. This is what our governor did. It's very, very wrong, which is we want the federal government to intervene about the issue, because we can't stand like this. We don't want Sunusi anymore.
Back to the official palace of the reinstated Emir Muhammad Sanusi II. It's a carnival-like atmosphere as the new Emir sits on the throne for the first time in 4 years, receiving dignitaries.
In any case, it is an interim injunction. The law has already been passed. It has been assented to. An Emir has been installed in place in accordance with the provisions of the law. So what injunction are we to abide by? I ask them, because they are the people who told you, does that confer on them to Cheta applied for the dethroned Emir?
Although the new Emir has continued his celebration, there are growing fears over an escalation in insecurity, as thugs carrying arms can be visibly seen around the palace and that of his deposed rival.
All eyes are now in Kano as peace groups, civil society organizations, opinion leaders continue to sue for peace. It is expected that the emirate tussle will soon come to an end and make Kano remain peaceful as it is known for. In Kano State for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
In the meantime, the Office of the National Security Advisor has denied claims that Nuhu Ribadu facilitated the return of the dethroned Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, to the ancient city on Saturday. The spokesperson for the Office of the NSA, Zakari Menjanyawa, described the claims as false. Menjanyawa, who spoke in Abuja, was reacting to accusations made by Kano State Deputy Governor Aminu Gwazo. The NSA, through his spokesperson, stated emphatically that his office did not provide aircraft that returned Ado Bayero to the state. Ado Bayero returned to the state early on Saturday, some 48 hours after he was dethroned by Governor Abel Kabir and replaced with Muhammadu Sanusi II. In North Africa, Tunisia's President Kais Saied has replaced the Interior and Social Affairs ministers in an unexpected cabinet reshuffle following a wave of detainment. President Kayi Said appointed Khalid Nori as the new Minister of Interior, replacing Kamel Faki, who was previously seen as a close ally of the president. Additionally, Kamel Madori has been appointed as the new Minister of Social Affairs, replacing Malek Zahi. The reshuffle also established a new position, Secretary of State, overseeing national security under the Interior Minister. The reshuffle also comes on the heels of a series of detainments over the past 2 weeks. And that's all on the news. It's back to Judith and Mazzino.
Many thanks, Debola. We appreciate you for bringing in the news there. Stick with us. It's still Breakfast Extra. Well, coming up on the other side is more. We're going to be coming into Wellness Central, plus more about Nollywood. So stay with us. Don't go anywhere. As you can see from the sting there, it's time for Focus Africa. There's been escalating tensions between Benin Republic and Niger, a situation that threatens not only bilateral relations, but also regional stability in West Africa. The recent closure of border crossings and the prohibition of river traffic between the two neighbors have raised concerns and drawn international attention.
Now, to shed light on this matter, we are joined by political analyst Dr. Bertin Kuvi. He's joining us from Niger. You are welcome, sir. Good afternoon, or rather good morning to you. Hello, Dr. Kuvi, are you there? Do we have you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Good to have you here. So let's talk about the issues here between Benin and, of course, Niger. First off, we know and understand that from before they were very good partners, interacting even commercially. So give us an idea of what exactly the tension is about between these two nations currently.
Well, I greet all your followers. The problem came from the coup d'etat that occurred in Niger on the 26th of July 2023. The leadership of Nigeria taken by no military regime is no longer allowed in ECOWAS. And there was a sanction against Niger. Benin Republic, Nigeria, and other countries has really followed that decision of ECOWAS. Nigeria cut like to Niger, closed border, even took the leadership of the army that was supposed to go and overthrow those militaries in Niger, if you remember. After the border being opened by ECOWAS, Niger refused to open the border with Benin Republic. Well, there was no understanding at Benin side, and I want to make a precision. I'm talking from the Republic, not from Niger. But in those days, all Benin people will remember that I was against Benin following that order of ECOWAS. Now, Niger said they are suspecting Benin having French military bases in Benin. And I can assure you, we have nothing like that on our territory. Of course, as Niger was having military cooperation with France, we also continue having military cooperation with France. When you are in a polygamy, a marital relation, when you leave the husband, you won't ask the second woman to also leave to follow you. If Niger has problem with France, Benin Republic doesn't have problem with France, and we will not tase all the French from Benin Republic, and we will not cut our relation with France. Nobody will ask Benin Republic to do so. Now, I hear the border was closed. The border was closed then by ECOWAS, and Benin followed that order. But this time, ECOWAS has opened the border, Benin Republic has opened the border Benin side, and Niger refused to open the border at their side. Now, to talk about the river. This is Niger saying they are afraid of terrorists attacking them from Benin Republic. They close their border for that. And they leave people crossing the river. How could you control who is because of fear of terrorism, you close the official border. So we don't understand Benin side, how Niger can close the border where one can control who is going to Niger from Benin Republic, and they left the river open. Every day, more than 1,000 people cross that border from Niger to Togo, to Ghana, elsewhere. Let's assume there is an accident. Who will be responsible of that? That is the first reason why Benin decided to cross the river. The second reason is, let's assume those terrorists, there are terrorists in Benin, nobody knows. Somebody attacked Niger coming from Benin Republic. How could we justify that that's not a plan from Benin government? Therefore, Benin government decided to close the river. So anybody who is crossing the border will be breaking the law. So we have no plan with Niger. We are sorry for what ECOWAS ordered to do that Nigeria did, Benin did, Cote d'Ivoire, everybody. But unfortunately, Niger is looking at sanctioning Benin. Maybe Niger is thinking we are the smallest state that they can fight with, but we are brothers. We have no reason to fight with Niger. What Benin did, that was under the leadership of the president of Nigeria, who is still the president of ECOWAS, and 15 countries decided to follow that order. May I ask a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Koive, first of all, we'd like to make a correction from earlier. We said that you are in Niger, but you are in Benin Republic. So this is for the sake of our viewers. That's Dr. Koive. He's a political analyst, and he is situated right there. His location is Benin Republic. Now, we're talking about the border crossings, the prohibition of river traffic between the two countries, and that's Benin Republic and Niger. But what are the potential economic and social repercussions of the closure of the border crossings and also the river traffic as well between these two countries, and just the ripple effect to other neighboring countries as well? We're pressed for time, but we want to just, get that captured very quickly.
Okay. Closing the river is not even the main issue, because the river is very dangerous and many have been dying because they don't have boats that are really qualified to cross that river. They take the canoe of fishermen and people have been dying in that river. Niger knows, we know. So Benin, banning crossing the river now is the country that is saving Niger from having their people dying in that river. That's one. Now to come back to your question. Niger closing the border of Gaia, because the border Benin side is up. Niger closing the border at Gaia. Of Benin Republic. So goods are not interacting. You cannot take onion from Niger to those markets, and you cannot take anything from this side to also Niger. But I want to make a point, and I salute the leadership of the president of Nigeria, who has allowed now Benin Republic to use the border with Kebbi for the goods that used to go to Nigeria. Because let me explain to you, madam, and followers. 83% of the goods that are coming from Benin Port to Niger will end up at Ilela at the border with Sokoto State, or the border at Maradi. So 80% of the from Benin to Niger is for Nigerian businessmen. Now that Nigeria allow Benin to enter directly in the north of Nigeria through the border of Segbana, Niger has destroyed their own economy because they were.
Dr. Kuvi, we would like to say thank you because we have run out of time, but you have given us very interesting insight into the situation between Niger and, of course, Benin Republic. And I would like to say thank you very much indeed.
Hello?
Thank you indeed. Now, do stay tuned because we have more coming your way inside our last hour for Breakfast Extra here, and a little look at exactly how investing in the health of our children is beneficial for them and us. We'll be back. And you're welcome this time around on Wellness Extra on Breakfast Extra. Now, as the nation gears up to commemorate Children's Day tomorrow, we would like to focus on the health of our children as we discuss the crucial topic, investing in the health of our children. Our children are our future, and their health and well-being are paramount to building a prosperous society.
There we go. Now, joining us today is Dr. Ayodele Rena. He is a consultant pediatrician. We also know him as the noisy pediatrician. The noisy pediatrician. Let's go. Anyway, to discuss the current state of Nigeria's health and children's health in Nigeria and what needs to be done to improve on it. So, welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Judy.
Welcome,
thank you, Mazino.
Welcome, the noisy pediatrician.
Yay.
There we go. Yay. Welcome. Let's get started. Many thanks for coming on. Right, you are in the sector. You work every single day with children. You have to deal. I mean, before now, we're talking about something that between three of us.
Yes.
Which has forced many of medical, of a brain draining sector. Yes. But talk to us about the current state of healthcare, particularly as it pertains to our children.
Okay, so happy Children's Day to you both, kids.
Sorry. I always laugh that I'm a developing child. I need my breakfast, my lunch, and dinner.
Children are hard. So the state of the Nigerian child is something that leaves a lot to be desired. It's not all doom and gloom because at the very least we've eradicated polio from Nigeria, which of course is something that we need to celebrate. Yes. But when it comes to neonatal, which is children below the age of 1 month, and under 5 mortality, specifically for under 5 mortality, no other country in the world has a higher under 5 mortality than we do in Nigeria. And when it comes to a parameter that we call stunting, which is if a child is not as tall for their age as we would expect, Nigeria is about second, in the world for that parameter.
So are you saying that the short men that we see around is not their fault?
I mean, I'm vertically challenged.
I did not want to go there, but Judith did, so.
so when you talk about people who are short for age, you mean specifically that they are below a certain, what we call a percentile, such that everyone falls within a certain margin, and if they fall beneath that margin, we call it the centile, the third centile, then they are considered to be short for age, and that has its problems, which of course I guess we're going to discuss.
Okay. Now, regarding investing in the health of our children, that starts from when we're babies. You've talked about child mortality, and God help us in Nigeria that we're able to overcome that one. But now, after a baby is born, and in the process of growing, let's say between the age of 0 to 10.
Yes.
I'm a parent, and I know how much I love to say yes to my daughter. Do I want this? Do you want this? Yes. Daddy, I want this. Yes. And am I doing any damage when I'm doing all of this prize-giving day? Have a candy, have this. How does that affect children's health, especially when it comes to the consumption of maybe genetically modified foods or perhaps maybe other consumables?
Yes. So when it comes to offering children, because I mean, nutrition is probably the most important aspect of child development, because without nutrition and adequate, food, then children fail to develop adequately. And food is really one of the ways in which parents show that they love their children.
You bet.
Yes, indeed. And sometimes they can go overboard with quantity and with quality. Now, when you give a child sweet treats as a reward for good behavior, it reinforces the idea that the treat is the reason for the good behavior and not necessarily the behavior in itself. So the behavior should be in itself the reason why they should behave well. So the sweet treats should probably be reserved for just specific days, birthdays, on a scheduled basis. Now, the risk of offering sweet treats is obesity, tooth decay, and then, of course, if it's persistent and there's a genetic predisposition to it, they can develop hypertension, diabetes, and other chronic medical conditions later in life. However, when it comes to, things like preservatives, GMOs, I know that we have a very diverse range of people in Nigeria. There are those who are, relatively well-to-do, middle class, upcoming. We tend to have access to a bit more of these things that are chock full of preservatives and, those modified things. And we want to limit those to as few times as possible during the week because you can't avoid them altogether. A child cannot go to a birthday party and be eating leaves and grass. They're going to offer them ice cream and really nice stuff. Let them have those at those points in time. But don't keep them in the house because once you have them lying around in the house, the fries, the chips, the crisps in the bags, then you know that you are forming a habit where they will turn to those things, as snacks when they're tired.
Now, like you said, nutrition plays a vital role in a developing child, and investing in it is very important. But we must, put it in a wider context. In the fact that, Nigeria, there's still insecurity affects food as well. The price of food has skyrocketed in the last, 12 months or even before that. And so, when you look at the NBS and the stats that they put out for a healthy, a meal, not every Nigerian family is able to, provide that on a standard.
Or afford it.
Or even afford it, So with that in context, what are some of the pressing challenges, health challenges that children in general in Nigeria face today?
I mean, Julius Mazino, you both know this, that the cost of living is a global crisis. And of course, it seems to hit harder in places where the economic and financial capacity to earn of parents is actually limited. And so we cannot, separate the child and the family in isolation. We have to empower parents to be able to take care of children. And so economic empowerment across board is absolutely essential when it comes to having to provide for children as far as nutrition is concerned. There's a UNICEF report that is coming out about the minimum dietary diversity. And what we mean by that is that every day a child must get at least 5 food groups, including fruits and vegetables, fats and oils. They must get protein and they must get rich organic carbohydrates. We find out that a lot of children in Nigeria, all they eat is carbohydrates. Barely any protein, barely any good fats or oils. It's all this, groundnut oil that is in the nylon
sachets, nylon bags. Sachets even better. Nylon bags. I'm sorry.
Nylon bags. I'm not even sure if it's extracted from crude oil, if it's extra plant. So so those things, and so you find out that this is leading to iron deficiency anemia, and this is a very common condition in which the child lacks iron. They are more susceptible to infections. If they have a supposedly mild infection, they can succumb to that infection very easily, and it affects their school performances such that they are not learning optimally because their brain simply has gone into survival mode where the brain is trying to just keep itself, alive, and you are now bombarding it with figures. 8 plus 8? No. The brain is trying to survive.
While we're on the subject of healthcare, let's talk about accessibility for kids here in Nigeria. I'm sure that you've perhaps maybe been to places where you've seen kids who have very common, ordinary perhaps, illnesses, but can't afford or access these healthcare. The situation in Nigeria is predicated by many factors, one of which is poverty. But how can we still, and yet, invest in our kids by paying attention to their health in areas that it might not be that accessible? What can parents do?
I think it's a great perspective you've brought because universal health insurance is absolutely non-negotiable. And capturing the formal and I think the non-formal sector, the formal sector really is, where the challenge lies. So we really need to begin to educate and enlighten parents about the idea that healthcare insurance is very important because emergencies can happen at absolutely any time. So, for instance, you've got the Lagos State Health Management Scheme, which is the LASHMA, where the parent can actually, pay as low as 400 naira a month to get access to care for themselves and their dependents, such that if the child needs to sort out any simple health issue, they can just go into any hospital that Lagos State government, LASHMA, the health scheme is recognized, and they'll get access care. Because what happens is that, and I see this on a daily basis, is that some parents come, they really want care for their child, but because they have other pressing needs, they don't have money out of pocket at that point in time to purchase some of the simplest and most basic drugs. So that is really key. And sometimes they don't even earn enough to actually have enough to save for school fees, save for food, and save for health. And so health always happens to be the one that they will pray away. That's why they must pray.
Go to church.
Yes, and pray,
Friday.
and pray that they don't fall ill. And while prayers are good, sometimes germs have other plans, accidents have
I want you to highlight that again regarding the healthcare. Did you say for as little as 400 naira in Lagos State, families, parents can have access to healthcare for their kids? How do they access this exactly? Where do they go? Who do they pay this 400 naira to?
So there's the LASHMA scheme, which is Lagos State Health Management Agency. So if they go to the Lagos State government website, they can actually get access to that, so LASHMA. And so they can pay, I know that, it's a very affordable fee. I'll get the exact figure, between 400 and 1,000, but they can pay that every month.
This is per month?
Yes, per month.
Okay.
Yes, per month. And they can pay that and have access to care for themselves and for, their dependents. But of course, there are grades as usual. When it comes to managed care, there are grades. Of course, the more you pay, the more likely you're able to get access to a lot more stuff.
You just talked about, insurance, when you think about it, is preventative, right?
Yes.
And same goes for, vaccination, that's also preventative measures. And there are other, like nutrition as well, eating healthy, they're all preventative measures from children falling ill in the more, dire situation in the future.
Good.
But I want you to speak more on the importance of it. And also, has the culture against vaccination and immunization in Nigeria changed, or is it still the same where it's tabooed? And, you said earlier that we have now successfully eradicated polio.
Yes. So vaccines are probably the most groundbreaking invention of the 21st century, because smallpox, as we know, was eradicated because of the efforts of people that had made vaccines to eradicate those. Now, vaccine hesitancy, which is something that, and the anti-vaxxer movement is something that we know exists, and it exists for adults and it exists for children, because adults are the custodians of children and they make decisions for the children. Of course, as we know, during the pandemic, there was this whole movement of, you turn into 5G once you get past vaccine for the COVID, as in, you'll grow a tail, and I'm yet to get mine. Let me just highlight the idea that some people have been hesitant to receive vaccines, either because of side effects in the past, or the idea that some companies have acted unethically here in Nigeria. And so they are thinking along the lines of what their past experience has been. But vaccines are safe, they are effective, and they prevent thousands of deaths globally. What is being introduced now is the human papillomavirus vaccine, which is going to be given free to children, female children, from 9 to 14 years of age. It's being rolled out to prevent cervical cancer in them later in life. Now, just as an example of that, we found that in the initial rollouts, for other states, it seemed to have been really well received in the North Central, but in Lagos, there seemed to have been some hesitancy to receive that vaccine because there was a lot of campaign, there was a lot of anti-vaccine campaign about that specific vaccine going around everywhere, on social media. But we have tried to let people know that this vaccine is safe, it's effective, and it prevents cervical cancer. So in the long run, the vaccination of getting your children vaccinated is probably the single most important factor in preventing infections and helping them to thrive later in life.
I'd like to take that one, actually, as my takeaway from today's conversation. Vaccinations are actually one way to invest in your children's health, especially for the future. So I'm hoping that other fathers like myself, and thinking about the tip on the human papillomavirus for female children from the age of 9. My daughter's turning 9 next month, in October. So I'll Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you, Judith, for having me on.
Dr. Renner is known as the Noisy Pediatrician on Instagram, and he has such beautiful content for everybody. And I'm hoping that you parents especially take today to actually go through his content and invest in the health of your children like he has just asked us to. Thank you once again, Doctor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, as we continue to celebrate our Children Day tomorrow, which is tomorrow, let us all remember the importance of investing in the health of our children. Together, we can create a healthier, and brighter future for the next generation. We'll take a short break and we'll come back on the other side. This time, we're talking about the NFVCB and regulating Nollywood. That was a tongue twister there. Now, after I've stumbled past that tongue twister there, it's time to talk about a recent buzz. There's been quite a bit of a buzz regarding the National Film and Video Censors Board, which is NFVCB.
There you go.
And it stands on the portrayal of smoking and ritual scenes in Nollywood movies and music videos. Now, clarifying the rumors, the executive director of the board, and that's Shuaibu Hussaini, he emphasized that the new regulations do not outright ban these scenes, but prohibit their promotion and glamorization.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because Kanayo might have been out of a job, but thank goodness. These regulations align with global best practices, by the way, and seek to ensure that necessary smoking scenes include health warnings to educate viewers rather than promote harmful habits. Joining us to discuss these developments, of course, we have in the studio here with us movie director and also producer James Omokwe, and we're also going to be joined by Dr. Shuaibu Hussaini, executive director and CEO, National Film and Video Censors Board. Of course, there he is. Gentlemen, you are welcome on the show today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good to have you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Do we want to start with the doctor?
Yes, please. Doctor, many thanks for coming on. And we'd like to start with you. To start, can you clarify the main objective of the NFVCB's regulations 2024 concerning smoking and ritual scenes in Nollywood movies? Let's just clarify their stands on these.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's so nice to see my brother, James, your live studios. The regulation actually is to protect young people. And I'm happy that before now, you had a discussion with a medical doctor to celebrate Nigeria, the International Children's Day, which incidentally is tomorrow. Is to protect our young people, is to ensure that our filmmakers are responsible, especially when it comes to the depiction of some of these, maybe the promotion, glamorization of smoking, tobacco. Actually, it's not even directly smoking, tobacco, and promotion and glamorization of tobacco, money ritual in our films. So we met and we engaged some stakeholders and we told them that there's a new regulation now that prohibits the promotion and glamorization of these vices, so to speak. But by the time I came back to Lagos after the initial stakeholders engagement in Enugu, all I started seeing was that we were banning smoking scenes in film. The intention is not to ban smoking scenes in film because there are some necessary smoking things that you need in the narrative that has to be in the narrative. I'm an actor, I'm a performing artist, and I know that I have even taken part in productions where I had to smoke. But what we are saying now is that if you have those kind of necessary things, you must give a warning. You must place a warning as required by the Federal Ministry of Health, saying that this smoking, is injurious to health, or it had a health risk if you smoke, or if you smoke, it is liable to lead you to die young. The other part is the issue of ritual killing. You can do, in our society, Africa as a whole, we have some things that we do, like traditional practice, that require that we do some rituals and all that. But here is what we are saying. If you are going to do a ritual scene for historical accuracy, you are going to do that for educational purpose and to correct a negative lifestyle, we don't have a problem with it, but you must warn. You must put a warning before the film while that scene is on to let them know that the actors and whoever that is involved in that this is just make-believe, that there is no truth in it. And the reason we think that you have to warn, and the reason the regulation is saying is because we mirror society, we mirror life, but children copy, young people copy what they see on screen. It is what they see on screen. That's why it is giving them the impression that it is so easy to make money, and the only way you can make money is to get into a cult, get somebody, cut off the person's head, and then dollars will start coming out from the person's head.
All right, Dr.
They
Shaibu.
see all this from the screen.
All right, Dr. Shaibu, I want to focus now on our director who we have in the studio here with us, Sir James Omokwe. By the way, congratulations on your AMVCA for Itura.
Thank you very much.
Which is a very traditionalist type movie in itself. And in Nigerian tradition, you cannot separate tradition from real life. In this tradition we're talking about, that's where the talk of ritual killings come in. So what were your first thoughts when you heard about this ban, especially as it pertains to filmmakers and skit makers as well?
Fortunately, I and Dr. Shaibu are both in a group. When this conversation came out, there was clarity on, you know, the reason why this regulation needs to happen. I also, you know, want to say that I'm a dad, so and I watch a lot of content, and I watch a lot of content with my son, and sometimes I'm very careful about the kinds of things that he consumes, and why I think that this is very important. And by the way, I'm 100% in support of it, because like he said, a lot of people are impressionable. There's news, and I don't know, I don't have it 100%, but there was a school shooting in America, and the guy who, you know, did the shooting, he was influenced by Call of Duty. Now, Call of Duty is a video game about the military going into, you know, kill people. And I think that it's, if you look at it from the angle of being you know, young people being impressioned by these scenes, it's important that those labels are put there to say, this is very important. This is not a real depiction of how things are done. Because again, you finish watching a movie, we all watched Scarface. Everybody came out after watching Scarface and we're like, say hello to my little friends. I mean, we did it, do you understand?
Yeah.
And we all thought it was cool. And, you know, we watch a lot of stuff and we all think that it's cool. But if those warnings aren't being put there, then that's a problem. Last thing I'll say is we did a show recently, and the first episode of that show is on Showmax. Now, Showmax is a streaming service. I mean, there necessarily aren't ratings for those films. However, I did have to put at the beginning, there's a very intense sexual scene in the beginning of that show. I had to put it there. This episode contains scenes of, you know, intense sexual, whatever, viewers, whatever is advised.
Okay.
Now, I mean, yeah, what's my own?
But are those warnings enough?
So, I mean, we have to do our own part. It's like smoking. Like, you know, they put, smokers are liable to die young. I'm telling you that what I'm selling to you is dangerous. It could kill you. You have a choice to either do it or not. So it's the onus is up to you. So for us, we have to let people know that, look, if there's a ritual scene here or there's a smoking scene here, I mean, we don't advise for these things to happen, but we're only depicting fiction, right? And so when you're going in to watch that film, I don't want you to come out of the film thinking that, you know, it's cool to smoke like, you know, 5 packs of cigarettes. It's bad for your health, because the films don't tell you that. I mean, the guy who's smoking and feeling, you know, like the Godfather, he's not going to tell you that, oh, I died of cancer like 10 years after. I mean, he won't say that. So it's important for us to have those labels in those films to say the regulation is great, I support it, it's cool.
Well, I guess we'll have to ask you on that one then.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and again, even before this interview, we had a phone conversation yesterday, and I would say something that he said very profound. He's not here to censor creativity. So he's not banning. So there's no conversation whatsoever that states that, oh, we're removing these scenes from films. And what he means by glamorization, and it's really not more for filmmakers, but it's for skit makers. And I'll give an example. I can't call names, but nowadays you see musical artists or skit makers or whatnot smoking, they're doing videos, you know, they're smoking, and maybe they're trying to portray a certain lifestyle, right? And because, yeah, it's what the young people are doing now. So, hey, let's pick up a cigar, let's pick up some
Because they're influencers.
Because they're influencers. And I think that because you're influencing, you're not really, people will look at you and want to be like you. So they want to pick that cigarette up and then, you know, put it in their mouth and do whatever it is that they want to do. And so what he's saying, or what, you know, the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board is saying is, there has to be some regulation as to when you're doing. So if you need to do that, please let the people who you're influencing know that smoking is bad. So if you're going to do a skit that glamorizes, you know, rituals, and yes, you're just doing a skit for purpose. I mean, there's a guy who does a skit. He's like a ritual doctor, and he always has conversations with people.
Yeah, I think I know that guy.
Yeah. At the beginning of the skit, please let people know that ritual killings is not the way to make money, X, Y, Z, because, again, people are impressionable.
I have to make us round up here because we're out of time, but I got what you're saying, especially that warning has to precede whatever it is you're putting out there, but it is not that you're banning or withholding or stopping an expression of art in any form. Mr. James Omokwe for coming all the way and giving us these insights. We do appreciate it. At this point, we really have to say goodbye because we have come to the end of the show and we're trying to squeeze everything in as much as we can. But thank you for joining us for our pre-Children's Day edition here for Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal. And
I'm Judith Atibi. Many thanks again for just sticking around with us from Saturday all the way down to this hour. It's not goodbye from us because we'll see you on Saturday. It's a date with us. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.